Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to talk about the Type 99 today, a vehicle that I recently spaded, and to be honest, going into it, I was really worried about, because it was one of these SPHs, which when you look at it, it has a bunch of issues with it, and usually that leads to not very fun gameplay, because people kind of abuse those kind of issues, but for some reason, the Type 99 actually worked really well, and it was super fun to play, probably because it has a proper lineup around it, so if you do die, at least you can do something, and also at the same time, it's just quite fun to donk people with an autoloader. The Type 99 is an SPH. It's designed for, obviously, long-range engagements, but in War Thunder, that's not the case. Instead, you use the 155mm to annihilate pretty much anything that you find. And at 7.3, you have an amazing lineup for Japan. You have the M47, which recently got its gun depression buffed, also the Hori production, which has always been a fantastic vehicle, even after the reverse nerf that they did, and then you have the Kicker for support as well from the air, with its wonderful 800 kilo bomb, which you actually get stock, which is super nice. So the Type 99 has this really good lineup around it, meaning that if you don't do well, or if stuff goes wrong, that's fine, because you can just keep going with the other elements of this. Japan really struggles for lineups, but this one is pretty solid, and the only thing it's kind of missing is an anti-air threat, which would be quite nice. So let's chat about the Type 99 itself. It has this 155mm, which starts off with a pretty good round in the form of the M107, but at rank 3, you unlock the L15A2. The L15A2 is a little bit more penetration, same muzzle velocity, but the major difference is that the L15 has nearly 5 kilos, or actually does have 5 kilos more of TNT equivalent. So it overpressures more. Also, if you land it near targets, it's more likely to annihilate stuff. It's actually really nice to use as a round. The standard M107 round is also nice though, and I had a great time with it, so don't discount it, especially at the start. So the interesting thing about this SPH compared to a lot of others, which actually makes it fun to play, is first of all, its targeting speed is pretty good. It has a very good vertical speed of 13 degrees per second, and overall a 10 degrees per second targeting speed, which is a lot better than stuff like the 2S1, for example. And the transmission of this thing, like the low-end acceleration that it gives you, is wonderful. It also has really good reverse, so it has up to 30 kilometers an hour reverse, which is really fun. It means that you can pop out, bang, and then go back in, and then keep doing that over and over again. So the mobility of this thing, even though it's the size of a house, is fantastic. So getting that gun on target is not as hard as the standard primary stats would actually tell you. It doesn't have a stabilizer on the gun, but because of that good targeting speed, it's really not that hard to set up. And another huge thing about this gun, which is another one of these secondary factors which is super nice, is the optics. The gunner optics on this vehicle are 8 times to 15.9 times. Now, Japan has this thing for some reason with a lot of their vehicles. They have crazy good optics with them, and the Type 99 is no different. It means that you can easily engage from range, and you can pop people at 1,000, 1,200, 1,600, anything like that. And without a rangefinder, you may think, oh, well, that's a bit of an issue, right? Well, at these BRs, people aren't looking for those long-range kind of destinations for rounds. Instead, they're looking a little bit closer, so you can sit in an area way away from everything, use those optics to be able to see across the map, and then kind of range find with the shells themselves. You get 30 of them, so you can, overall use some of them as you go. And the interesting thing is you can do this with a vehicle like this because of the fact that it has a good reload. The issue with a lot of these SPHs, so if we have a look at the M109, for example, for the British, what you have is the M109A1, and the reload is 17.3 seconds, right? The G6 Rhino is 20 seconds, basically, for the reload, where if you have a look at this one, it's 7.5 seconds, which is pretty much the same as most standard guns around this BR. So if you want to range find using kind of the gun itself and the optics, you can do that from range, which is really fun to do. So this meant that you can stay in a lot of positions away from the enemy, and and just kind of bonk people from miles away. I was able to get a 3-to-1 KD with this thing just basically by doing that, and the vast majority of the time that I died, I think I went about 60 kills to 20 deaths, was to Cass, because I would just be away from the battle, you know, covering certain zones, smashing people as they came around, with obviously overpressuring them with the rounds, and then what would happen is eventually one of them would have enough spawn points to get in a plane, and they'd just bomb me and I'd die. And also another thing is, with the HEVT that this has, because it's a shorter reload, it makes more sense to bring some, or it makes more sense to at least give it a go, compared to a lot of other nations where it ain't exactly as easy to do. Now, the vertical guidance on this thing is pretty rough, and it is quite a tall vehicle, so that is a slight problem with it. It does mean that it's a little bit harder to be able to get the gun on target compared to others, but mostly I didn't run into too many issues with that. The only issues I had is certain maps which were very hilly in general setup. Stuff like Mozdok can be a bit of a problem with this type of machine, because you have to expose a lot of the turret to be able to, you know, hammer down. I also most of the time decided to take 20 rounds. The reason for this is so if they shot the left hand side of the turret, which most people seem to do, what that would mean is there wouldn't be a ton of shells there, or at least there wouldn't be a ton of charges there, so you would actually still be able to survive. You know, it's a big thing for this vehicle to keep going. Because of that reload, you don't have to worry about, you know, your loader dying. You can just keep hammering rounds over and over and over again, and you can just keep fighting. So keeping this thing kind of hull down, only poking the turret out, shooting people, and then going back was definitely the way forward. It's also kind of nice that it gets a 50 cal on the top. It's something that, you know, we chatted about a lot. Having that extra option against either light vehicles or against stuff like aircraft is super nice. Against things like weasels, for example, the 50 cal can annihilate them, at least from the side, and as I said, since I got bombed quite a lot, it was nice to have at least some kind of air defense to be able to survive. So if you haven't given this thing a go, I do actually highly recommend it. It was really fun to play, and with the lineup that Japan has, it was really nice to play too. I feel like I had a big impact on the games while playing this thing, a lot more than a lot of other SPHs around the place. I get why people like vehicles like this and the Vidar. I still would prefer to have a standard kind of medium tank, because I could kind of do the same things with it and also have the additional armor, but the Type 99 is definitely a lot of fun because of the fact that it's close to an MBT in kind of speed, and also just has the big donkey gun with a close to a reload of an MBT too. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.